like the remote viewers?
Yes.
Okay.
So
that means
the intro? You're kind of master ceremonies.
yeah, probably. I guess I was just thinking that I'm used to talking to this group.
I'm so excited. Assaulted.
Is this live?
So a little more.
Yeah,
live.
it is.
So a little
Super
more
great.
framing this time than last time. I guess.
Yeah, a little better framing, I would say, rather than more framing. Do I have peanuts in my teeth?
It's ironic. I feel more comfortable with just one camera as opposed to like
feel like I
two
have peanuts
cameras
in my
as opposed to a bunch of bodies or
Somebody
something.
should check me, but I decided I don't care.
For the rest of Techstars. Are we filming it?
I have no idea.
Are we on camera?
Zach's gonna tell us.
Okay.
Oh, we're live. We're live. Hi guys. Hi guys. Everybody in the room knows me, but for those that are visiting us remotely, I'm Nicole Glaros. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer here at Techstars. This is David Brown, a co-CEO at Techstars, and we're gonna walk you guys through a mock mentor meeting. So let me tell you why first, because I believe that we all need to understand why we go through these things. Historical feedback over time has been that companies didn't feel like they got in their groove until right around meeting 15 or 20 with mentors. That means you wasted 20 meetings of your time and the mentor's time trying to figure out what the hell you're even talking about. So our objective today is to try to accelerate that and get you to about 2 meetings before you feel like you're getting value and you're adding value to the mentors. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna actually get pretty deep and personal with a little of you. We had that in the last session too. So I like to set some ground rules. First is that any negative feedback is out of love, right? We all want you guys to get better, and you can't get better by saying good job. So the orientation is going to be around what can improve, not what's going well, although we will try to high five you when stuff is going awesome. The second thing is actually a participatory exercise. So if you see something, raise your hand, speak up, right? We're going to use a lot of sort of my insight into this, but I'm only one person, so everybody's insight into the room will help make the team stronger. We're going to pretend like we're going to go through we're going to pretend like we're going through a mentor meeting. So we're going to orient the same way. Normal mentor meetings are somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. It depends on the program, but we're going to do it in about 5. And what I'm going to do in that mentor meeting is stop a lot and point out what's working and what's not working. And that's where I need your guys' help, is to point out what's working and what's not working. And if you disagree with something I say, please tell me, because that not only helps make me stronger, but it helps make the team stronger because they'll get a different perspective, right? So I ask for permission and forgiveness to interrupt, right? We might replay certain scenes, and I know this is also a little contrived, so just forgive us for that. We're just going to do the best that we can.
And it's 5 minutes total, you said?
The whole session will take about 20, but because we kind of stop and go and repeat and have conversations, it'll be about a 5 minutes of the minute. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
You'll see.
Very short answers.
Yeah. So yeah,
So
what did I
in this
forget?
scenario, I'm the mentor. Right? Nicole is the observer, the fly on the wall.
Yeah.
She's going to do the critiquing.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll interact with David, and we're just like, David is a mentor. So this is David Brown, and maybe just for everybody's sake, you can do like a quick, like 2 minutes on yourself. And what we're going to assume is that you have come in and done your background homework on the person. So, but since not everybody in the room and on camera has done that, we'll just Why don't you give 2 minutes?
So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've worked in startups all my life. I would say that my areas of expertise are in scaling businesses, in management, helping grow teams, set culture. Most of the businesses I've been involved with have been B2B businesses. So growing sales team, things like that would be something I'm familiar with. B2C, less so.
Cool. You feel like that gives you a good reference point of where to start? Everybody too?
Completely.
One little tip for everybody is it's really tempting to watch the person that's speaking, like mostly the team. Don't watch the team, watch David. What we're looking for is an interaction between them around what's working and what's not. And if you're only watching the person speaking, you're missing half of the equation. So if I tell you to focus 100% of your attention on David, you'll end up only spending about 20% of your attention there, and that's good. Okay, should we get started?
Yeah.
Ready? We'll learn a little bit. Okay, so in a normal mentor meeting, he's probably sitting in the room. You guys are probably out of the room. So I actually want you to practice the coming in and shaking hands and bring your stuff. There you go. Awesome. And you would be checking your phone.
Yeah.
We're filmmakers, so we're kind of used to this.
Whenever you guys are ready. Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. I'm Greta.
Hi, Greta. I'm David.
Lauren.
Lauren, nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for sitting down with us today. We're really excited to pick your brain.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, we will. So Lauren and I are co-founders of Blue Fever, and we're essentially a better version of Netflix for millennial women that focuses on community and mood curation. And our background is in film, independent filmmakers, and we saw so many flaws after making our own films and really observing the landscape. We saw flaws in the independent film system for anyone in it, but specifically for women. And then when we looked at the data, we saw that, Hollywood films were being made all the time, but women were only leads in these films about 15% of the time. Yet when they were on screen, they made 20% more money. And when movies were helmed by women, which there's only 4% of directors who are women in Hollywood, they made, 4 times as much money on that movie.
The movies did.
Yeah.
The ROI.
So I'm a little bit confused. Are you taking the content that would be on Netflix and curating it down to those that would be of interest for women, or is it something different than that?
That's a great question. So we're still refining our elevator pitch, and we have been going with what we've been doing, but it's problematic when we use the word Netflix because we're actually not working with Netflix whatsoever. We are just a streaming platform. So we're a streaming platform for millennial women because, Hollywood has
Content is movies and TV shows.
Movies, series.
The same movies and TV shows that you might see on Netflix, but curated.
No, so we're actually working on sort of a lower tier, if you will. We're obviously a startup company and can't necessarily compete with Netflix on that level. So what we did coming from our background is partner with actual independent filmmakers who are working outside of the studio system who aren't getting through. So because there aren't a lot of women in Hollywood, we exist sort of outside of that system.
So the content I would see on your platform is different than the content I would see on the Netflix platform.
It's mostly more short form at the moment, although we will add long form later. But at the moment, we're talking about web series, short films, music videos.
Okay, so can I stop you? So we're about, 2.5, 3 minutes in, and he went so deep in the rabbit hole of Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys got this feedback yesterday, stop it.
We realize it.
But so what's happened is that you've burned 3 minutes of a really valuable meeting, pulling him out of the Netflix rat hole.
Right.
Okay. So know that you've gotten this feedback a couple times now. He's really trying. He's like glued in on Netflix.
Yeah. Right.
How is this Netflix?
Yeah.
That's hurting you because it's burning really valuable time for your ability to get information and guidance out of him. Right. So if you find yourself, so this is for everybody, right? If you find the person has gone down a rat hole that's gone a completely different direction than what your business is, you need to, it's okay to go, okay, can we start over? I inadvertently got you down the wrong direction. Let's start over, right? And it's better to reset than try to reverse, pull him out of the mindset that he's gone into, right? So if I were you, I would go, okay, can we start over? Because we didn't explain it well, and try again. Try the thing I gave you yesterday.
Okay, well, we haven't perfected it, so that's why we didn't do it. But we sat last night and tried multiple versions, and we're not satisfied with any of them, but we will try.
Do you remember?
I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But by the way, I'm so sorry. One more thing. He's engaged.
Yeah.
He's trying to understand. He's trying to get it. He's engaged, right? He's kind of confused and he doesn't understand, but he's not checked out yet, which is good. But he's leaning towards checking out because he doesn't get it.
Right.
But he's not checked out yet.
Okay, we're gonna make sure he does not check out.
We're gonna try this again. Okay, reset. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of background before I tell you what our elevator pitch is. In the Hollywood industry, that is a lot more male dominated than it is female. So you have women on camera about 15% of the time. Behind the camera, it's very similar. So what we said as filmmakers was there's a problem here that we need to solve both as users and as viewers and as filmmakers. Because we don't have anywhere to go to know that we're gonna find content that speaks to us really authentically.
So you're a content company, not a platform company.
So we are a platform that basically curates and streams the best short videos, movies, and series directly from.
You're
Fiverr.com.
curating, you're picking what best
are.
means.
So it's kind of like if you think about what ESPN did for sports and putting that all in one place. People back in the day were like, why would I need one whole channel for sports? That's what we're doing for female-driven entertainment.
Got it.
Does that make more
Yep,
sense
I think
now?
I got it.
Okay,
I think
great.
I got it. You said you wanted to pick my brain on a few things. What
Yes,
were,
we did.
What were those?
First, we wanted to show you the platform so you could get an idea
Okay,
of what
let's
we're
make
working
sure we
with.
turn it this way.
Oh.
Maybe lift it up.
Yep. So essentially, this is a subscription-based platform. Right now, it's free for a year. Sign up at bluefever.com.
Seriously. Yeah.
And we just launched our first exclusive series. So the audience can actually go in and you can pick like whether or not you're going to watch it as a movie or a series. In this case, we did 2 versions of the same product as a test. But you can also watch by other genres, and eventually we're going to also launch moods. So let's say you were a young woman, which clearly you are not, but you were going through PMS.
I live with a few.
And they go through PMS, they can actually search by that mood and find something that satisfies the issues that they're going through in that moment. So that's the platform. But yeah.
Yeah, and the really reason why we're different than any of these other kind of bigger platforms out there like Hulu, Amazon, not going to say the last one because we've had some problems with it, but we are creating community and we are creating a specific experience for them.
Hey,
Uh-huh.
Greta?
Yep.
Just 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Do you have an idea of how David might help you and what you want to ask him? Okay.
So do you
Great.
see he's chomping at the bit
Yeah.
a little bit to talk?
So just skip the other parts, basically.
Well,
I feel like that was a little bit too much. Like maybe you could have gotten
Okay.
to the question sooner.
Okay.
You're pitching.
Yeah, that's one of the questions we want to ask him actually,
But
having to do with that very problem.
So the question, I think we're going by what you guys were talking about yesterday, all the things that we like should really hit. So you're just saying if they respond, just skip that part and go straight to how they can help.
right, but I think that the comment is that you went into pitch mode. You're continuing to pitch, and part of the art of the mentor meeting is learning when to stop talking, and you blew through the line a little bit, right? So because he's got questions.
So what was going through my mind is I think I generally get it. I don't think I'm going to be the domain expert for you. I'm wanting to shift the conversation to my next question, which is how are you going to get information about your product out to market? What's your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah.
Other than broadcasting live to 100 other companies.
What we find works well for us is when Greta and I are in person, especially with young women, which we recognize isn't scalable. So we're trying to currently figure out what is the best way to utilize all of those people who are really excited about what we're doing, who are volunteering for us, who are ambassadors for our company. We have 300 young women signed up for that and trying to make that.
So do you have a user base? We haven't talked about traction.
Yeah, we have about 800 active users at the moment.
So
And-
can I just stop you? You just missed a great opportunity. You have a giant challenge in scaling your user base. He asked you how you're going to get users, and you said we have a challenge. The thing you could have done was turn a question around and go, this is what we're currently doing. We know it's not scalable. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Okay. I felt like you were blowing through it.
Oh, sorry. He asked a question, so I.
Yeah, no, but it's okay. Make sure that
Flip
you.
it around.
Yeah, flip it around. Like he went to where you needed him to go. Awesome.
right.
He's engaged in it.
Right.
So make sure that you're digging in on the thing that he's engaged in. By the way, is also a major challenge with your business. So
Yeah.
so do it.
Okay, cool. So given that we have about 800 users right now and 300 people really actively engaged with us, how would you suggest that we activate them?
So I think what you're doing is you're trying, because you're saying the two of you are effective when you're there in person. You want to take the 300 most influential users that you have and activate them.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Are you finding that they're doing that already, naturally, and you want to do it more?
Yes, but we're learning how. Like,
Yeah.
we know that they're excited and they're sharing because they're telling us that, but we don't really have a way to track it.
Yeah, I think it's my question. I think a question for you would be, how do we're working on an effective method to give them the best opportunity to share our content and to share their love of Blue Fever, and then track all of that so that we can have all of the data on how that is actually going.
So there's the features of sharing, and then there's the motivation of sharing, even if the features are there, what's in it for them.
Right.
Are you thinking about both those? Which one are you more worried about?
The motivations I don't think we're as worried about, because I think people are pretty passionate once they realize what we're doing and once they actually come in and
They're
watch
going to
the
tell
content.
all their friends, so it's not about activating them. It's about enabling them through technology.
It's about making it really easy and fun, right? To say, hey, like, here's a short video that, like, I love. If I really love it, I'm gonna wanna tell somebody else about it, because that's how our generation works. How do we as a company make that really easy for them, would be a big question that we're working on.
So is it about thinking about what features that you would like to be able to do that? Or is it about
That's part of it.
developing the technology to make those features real?
It's about making it easy, clear, and simple. I think it's about the user experience of the features combined with the
You know what the
motivation and
features
putting it all
are. You
together.
know that if you have them and they're easy to use, that your user base will disseminate the information without additional motivation. You don't know how to make the features that you've thought of so easy to use so as to create it in a way that they will go forward and activate.
I feel like we have so many options. There's so
Yeah.
many ways that young women communicate with one another, and they all use something different, right? Like, one of them, you said you have young women in your house that, like, they might use Snapchat, they might use Facebook, they might, use text, email, etc.
They use Snapchat.
They use Snapchat.
How
Awesome.
young? How old are they?
16, 14.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a little younger than our demo.
Yeah.
So he's digging on the same line of questioning for a long time. He's having a hard time understanding what your challenge is. So it's worth noting that, because he's been digging on the same line of questioning, that whatever it is about how you framed the challenge that you have is not totally getting through.
It's not clear.
He's like asking clarification question after clarification question after he asked like 5 in a row. So just like heads up that you could burn through most of the meeting on him just even understanding what the problem is.
Right.
Okay.
You want to get more users. I'm trying to bucket it in, is it this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, right? It's not the bucket of convincing them to spread the word. You said that's a no-brainer. It's not the bucket of what features do we need. You said you have that covered. I'm narrowing in on maybe it's the bucket that you can't make it usable in a way that they like, but now I'm picking up on it's the platform that you're looking for. Is it Facebook or is it Snapchat? We're spending, as Nicole's saying, we're spending a lot of time sort of deconstructing what the problem is, so that then once I know where the problem is, we can talk about, well, maybe here's some ideas on how you can solve it.
Right.
Although honestly, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm so far afield of what I know that even if I can identify what the problem is, I don't know that I'm really going to be able to help. And maybe the really valuable thing to do here is for me to reset the whole conversation and say, let's talk about something completely a different kind of challenge.
Well, I would ask
For a different kind of challenge, kind of going to what you said about pitching, we are just coming off of raising the first tranche of our seed round and have been in crazy pitch mode. And now we're transitioning into execution mode. So there's some road bumps of us switching,
like literally yesterday.
yesterday, switching our brains, and that is something
For
that
these mentor meetings.
for these mentor meetings for
Yeah.
Techstars.
The entire company for everything we do on a day-to-day basis.
Let me pause you for a second, right? So you flew through something that I think you want to slow down and think about, okay?
Okay.
He what I haven't yet figured out, and he'll be able to answer, is was your line of questioning because you didn't understand the problem, or because you were trying to fill space and time to get to something that you felt like you could engage on?
That was the first.
It was?
Yep, it was.
Okay. So he's thinking.
Although I'm worried that I wouldn't be able to engage even if I figured out what the problem was.
Okay, so that's good to know, because
Yeah.
I wasn't positive about that. But like, you want to make sure that you can get to something that the person feels like they can engage on. Otherwise, one of two things is going to happen: they feel obligated to give you guidance on something that they actually don't have a background in, right? Or you get through this whole line of questioning and it doesn't go anywhere, like you don't get anything out of it, and that person doesn't feel helpful, and you don't really feel like you got anything out of it, right? So sometimes it's like you guys have been. He's actually been asking lots of questions, but you've been talking a lot. So it's good sometimes I think it's really good to come into a meeting and go, here are the 3 or 4 things that we're really struggling with today, right? Are there any of these that you feel particularly qualified to talk to us about? And we can go deep on that one. That might have been a really good way to start with him.
Great advice, yeah.
And that way he's going deep on an area where he feels he can contribute, right? And by the way, it'll also help with the line of questioning.
That is really great advice.
Yeah, I like
Right.
that.
Okay.
Do we have any more time?
My phone got taken from me. I don't know what time it
I
is.
also noticed that when you mentioned the road bumps, that he smiled for the first time in a while. Like,
Yeah, I did
think
too.
that would have been engaged with the pitch. Road
So
bumps,
pay
'cause it
attention to
seemed like
smiles.
something
Yeah.
He might have thought he could help you with. I'm just, my little
Yeah.
The comment for the camera was pay attention to the smiles, because that will give you the indication of how engaged he is in the conversation.
And I think that's something we wanted to ask him right off the bat, but then you were asking about users, so we went in that direction, but we really wanted to ask you more of a general, you talked about scaling a company, right? And we read up before, it's like, how do you shift from raising mode to execution mode and scaling?
Yeah.
But if we don't
kind
have
of a
time.
top-
So I think we won't have time. We have
Yeah.
3 companies, is that right, in an hour and a half? So we probably won't have time,
Yeah.
but we'll have separate
Sounds
time.
good. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Very
Yes.
helpful.
Thank you.
Very
This
helpful.
is part, we're going to practice. One of the reasons why we have a lot of companies in is so people can see different styles, and you can see where different companies do well and different companies don't do well, and that helps you guys individually learn too from others' mistakes and accomplishments. So that was awesome. You guys will probably have 2 or 3 more meetings before you get really in your groove, but let's get rid of the Netflix comment.
We gotta get something else.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
I want us to move.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and one of the other seats. Who wants to go?
So while they're remiking, we can do a bit of a debrief.
Yes.
Actually, can you guys just hang for a minute? Because they're, oh no, you guys have to get remiked. Yeah. So I actually thought I wanted to hear what was next, because I thought that question that you just asked, the tone in the room changed. You dropped in, the tone in the room changed, and you dropped into something that has real emotional resonance, and something that David can also really talk to you about, right? That experience of how do you go from raising to, and how do you come into Techstars? You know, and I almost wanted you to ask, hey, we're a media company. This is a technology, program, right? So don't be afraid to get right into something that's real and take control of the 20 minutes. If you feel like it's going bad, don't be polite. When you said, you know what, let's just reset. I want to start over. Don't be afraid to do that, so you get the most out of the 20 minutes.
So I also recognize that we have 20 minutes, right, of which we spend 5. So normally you would have had another 15 to talk about other things. So, everybody should recognize that we're only getting a small section of it here. But it is so common. And I'm sure Nicole will agree with this. We sit through lots of mentor meetings, and product dominates the conversation for so much. And especially in your case, if you're speaking to an older male and your product is for younger females, it may not make sense to look. I want to know what the product is, and I want to have a general idea, but getting deep into how do I do distribution to attract my target audience sort of did take us down a rat hole. And just knowing up front that we can talk about 100 other different things that have nothing to do with your product or your market that I might be able to be more helpful in. So knowing who your mentor is and what their background is will help guide that.
I also think if we had known too that you had 2 daughters, that might have been an interesting entry point to start with, and be like, hey, you have 2 daughters. They consume a lot of media, I'm assuming, and you'd probably say yes, they do, and then saying that's
That's
going
right.
from there.
And what do they use? Do they use Facebook? Do they use Snapchat? Right? that is a great way of engaging a mentor because it makes it personal to
Right,
them.
and then you can imagine who our target audience is and your daughter in college and what she might be watching or what you would even want her to watch and et
Right.
cetera.
And I imagine my daughter until you said, oh no, that's not quite the, that's younger
Yeah,
than the
yeah.
demographic that we were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Awesome.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hand
Do we know who's next?
Yeah.
You're next?
We're next.
Next victim.
All right, I don't have my phone or I'd be checking it right now.
You want me to give you a pop phone?
Yeah, I need a prop phone.
Prop phone.
Kind of sit and chill an intro and then go do the thing, yeah?
That's not mine.
It's not my pink. It's not my pink.
Oh yeah.
pen.
It's not
Yep.
You have to practice
leave the room.
Okay.
All right.
Practice the entrance. Bring your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Bring your stuff.
Work in progress. Oh, yeah.
If I type in the wrong code 10 times, will it wipe it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, fire alarm. Okay.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Knock, knock.
Hey, hey.
Hi, guys.
Brian Freeman.
Brian, nice to meet you. I'm David.
Hi, I'm Kate Edwards. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Jim Mulhern.
Jim, nice to meet you. Love the
We're
shirt.
Heartbeat. So thanks so much for sitting with us.
Great to be here.
And we kind of studied your background, and we'd love to talk specifically about how much you know about scaling. So trying to keep it a little more casual and stop us if we're talking too much. But I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check out Heartbeat at all, but we are a marketing automation platform backed by about 120,000 female brand ambassadors. So how familiar are you with the kind of influencer world?
I would not describe myself as an expert.
Okay. And
Aware of the concept.
do you feel positive or negative vibes about the space in general?
About influencers in
Yeah.
general?
I mean, it's typically
positive. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good start.
Yeah.
So I think it's best to kind of try and describe a little bit of the market.
Some people think of it negatively.
Oh, yeah, it's like one of those types of spaces where people are like, oh yeah, it's a done deal, it's game over, it's already been done. Or other people are like, no, it's one of the fastest growing industries and it's a complete white space, which it really is. So if you think about the space, I can actually draw like a little thing. I love visuals. So this is followership. So like here you've got 1 million followers, here you've got 100 followers. And engagement, when somebody does a post on any social platform, the graph kind of looks like this. And almost all 84 billion of the spend happens up here. So Heartbeat is this, basically. So we own the entire back end of this space. So every single one of our ambassadors is a female. So Heartbeat is,
So I'm thinking
yeah, we got the
influencing for
graph
losers, right?
no influencing for,
Yeah, for normal people.
Right.
so,
Very cool normal people.
So Heartbeat for consumers is this gamified platform that really gives you access to brands as a normal person you would have never had access to, and then meets these young women where they are on social media and says, hey, we will give you product, we will give you cash, we will give you community fun incentives to go on your personal social channel and promote something.
So is this about targeting people who want to be the big influencers but maybe don't have the following, and you're giving them some tools to do better than they otherwise might have?
Yeah. So it's finding people who want to be it. Yeah, and I can show you the product too to give you a sense of like what these people are experiencing. But when they join Heartbeat, we built something that feels kind of like a LinkedIn profile for them. See, I'm doing my research. We got David Brown up here.
Can I pause you?
Yes.
Like David right now is wondering, huh?
Okay.
Like he even told you that at the beginning. Like I'm familiar with the concept, but you're sort of trying to talk him into it a little bit.
Okay.
And he's trying to stay engaged. Like he's trying to make jokes to stay engaged, but his mind is wandering. I'm looking
Okay.
at him doing this and this, right? So just pay attention. So for you guys, like pay attention. And do you feel like you're losing the mentor? You're losing him quickly, right? He's trying to stay engaged because he wants to be helpful, but he told you like that he doesn't know that much about the space. So don't try to talk him. You don't need to educate him if he doesn't want it.
Okay.
So you can ask him, would you like to learn more? Or you want to just dive right into our scale issues? Feel free to ask him,
okay.
right?
So
And you teased me with that, by the way, at the beginning, right? With, oh, I want to talk to you about scaling. Oh, there's an area. And my first thought was, I was going to say to you, well, just give me 30 seconds on the product before we dive into that, just so I have an idea. Now we're 3 minutes in. I'm dying to go back to the scaling conversation.
Should
Nicole's
we
exactly right.
reset? Would that be a good way to move forward?
No,
Yeah.
just pause
Yeah.
and then pretend like you got through the product and now talk about scale.
So that was great. Thank you.
So the company has, we just closed a round of funding, Techstars. We've got about 9 full-time staff, and we are now faced with growing out our sales channel and our operations channel and our user growth channel all at the same time. So we've got really talented people, but we don't necessarily have the roadmap as we go into Series A prep of how to communicate what we're going to do, what we need to do. How do we start thinking about that? What do we do from here?
So let's start with dividing them up, right?
Okay.
You said you want to grow sales, you want to grow operations. What was the third one?
User growth.
User growth. Sales, operation, user growth. And so I met your co-founders. How are you dividing up your roles? Who does what?
So I am managing basically, just kidding. So I basically manage the revenue side of the business. So that is sales, operations.
Yeah.
Operations in this case meaning making sure the campaigns are executed,
Yeah.
all the people are posting, we're doing what we say we're doing.
Yeah.
And then Jim is managing the community piece of it.
Right, so the marketing, so bringing ambassadors in and then engaging with them once they're in the community and keeping them engaged.
So you own user growth, you own sales and operations. So you're saying, hey, we're trying to figure out how to scale those things. Are those problems, or you kind of have your poop in the group and you know what you're doing?
I would say,
It's a nice way of saying having your shit together.
I like it. We'll have to use that again.
You guys all just went with it. You're like, yes, I'll go with it.
I think in general we have talent, but we have not gone from a team of 4 or 9 full-time to a team of 18 or 20. And we find that although we're pretty much the best in the world at generating content, we do more than anyone else on a weekly basis right now anywhere. We don't fully understand the effects of like what's potentially coming. We have 45 active clients now. We need to 10x that in the next year.
Yeah.
I think although we have talent, I think it's impossible for us to know right now what's coming, and that's what I'd love some help on understanding.
So I want to stop before you answer. What's going through David's mind? Does anybody know? Is anyone watching him?
I know.
I know. Anybody but David. What is his body language saying or said?
Hesitation, nervousness, like, or something like that.
I think he's eager. I think he's asking me.
Yeah, I feel like he's confused and like he's confused and fidgety.
Why are you confused and fidgety?
Not confused and fidgety. I'm ready to
He's
ask
eager.
my next
Yeah,
question.
fidgety.
Yeah.
He's eager.
Yeah.
He's eager. So my point is like, my point was is that he actually had body language, and to pay attention to it and notice the shift in change, like notice the change and try to figure out what's going on. Like he was like sitting like this, and then he went legs like this, and he went back like this again, right? So he's getting anxious. So your guys' job is to try to help figure out what's going on, and sometimes it's really easy just to go, hey, what's going through your mind right now?
So
right?
that's a really good point. So we've talked about, there's a lot of, we have 3 founders, that's a little different, but I think often Jim and I are able to observe while Brian's talking. And so how do we approach that? Like, say we do notice that he's fidgety, how do we like broach that in a positive way?
You just say, hey, I have a really quick question. I know, like, you look like you've got something going on in your brain. I'd love to know what it is.
So just acknowledge it
Right?
head on.
Just acknowledge it.
Okay.
And sometimes when you're talking, it's really hard to be perceptive about what the other person is doing because you're so busy thinking about the next sentence that you're going to say. So oftentimes it's easier for your co-founders, the other people in the room, to help with that. So lean on each other for help in understanding what's going on. Like, he wants to answer, and you're still talking. And if he's going to forget what he's going to say, then you've lost out on whatever the thing was that was in his mind. Right? So, I don't know. Anything to add? Did anybody else notice that? Or was it just me? I was getting antsy watching him get antsy.
All right, game on?
Game on.
Can I say what I wanted to say?
Yes. As long as it's not
Got
pooping
like
in a
10
group.
times worse. Than it.
So my impression on what you're describing is you're worried about problems that haven't happened yet. It's
Okay.
not that you have a problem building the sales organization or the operations team or user growth, or at least if you have those problems, you haven't articulated them.
Okay.
I find it's very common in the startups that we work with. I would focus on the problems that you're having, not the problems that you think you might have next year or next
Okay.
month or even next week.
Okay.
Fair?
Yeah.
So do you have any scaling problems right now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One thing that we're faced with is we tend to be reactionary about like problems that we face with customers. So because we've been really fast and loose with like getting the deal, just get the deal.
Sell the dream, service the nightmare?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, there's a term for it. Dang, that's relieving.
There is a term for that.
So that's something that we've experienced for sure.
Yeah. So look, it's very common early on. It's okay that it's good that you're taking a note of it. Maybe it's reassuring that other companies go through it. The story I tell there is, Michael Dell, when he was selling computers early on from his dorm room, he sold it on the value prop of, every computer can be customized, and now it's robots making it or whatever, but he was hand assembling them after he ripped a print off of the printer, and he figured out how to scale that process later. If you're selling the dream and you're scrambling to service it while you're figuring it out, that is okay. That is normal. That is what you should do because it means you're selling something, right? If you wait till all the process on the back end is perfect, then you won't be able to put a product into market and test it out and see if customers love it.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't do that forever, it is actually a good thing that you're doing it.
Okay, cool. Another struggle we have with scale is we have to sell a lot. Luckily, Kate and Jim and the team are really good at that because we haven't yet figured out how to best articulate our what we've done for the client because we're often working with small businesses who are really busy and the only thing they see is sales.
So they're not scalable. You don't know what the formula is. They can go do it. You don't know what that magic is.
Yes,
you couldn't go hire 5 other people to go do that.
They can't replicate what we can do for them, but a lot of this is communicating to them what happened, and sometimes they won't give us the analytics information or all the other things that we need them to do, and they just don't do it, and then we lose out on that part of the value prop.
I hate to do this, but I have to pause it.
Yeah. Okay.
How's David feeling right now?
Excited.
Yeah. He's engaged, right? He's feeling super excited. He's actually mentoring. He's giving you good information based on his experience. You got there, yay. Right? This is great because that's where you want David to be thinking about this. You want him to get excited, and he's also excited because he feels like he's helping you.
Yeah.
So notice that when you tap into that part of the person where they actually feel like they're being of assistance, it's really fun and exciting for them. So that's where David is. We have to move on, which is why I stopped, and I wanted to pull him out of mentoring for a moment because you will actually get mentoring office hours with him where you can get all those questions answered.
Cool.
But I want you to know what it felt like from his perspective to be actually asking the right questions and getting excited and engaged. And that's what it feels like.
Sweet.
Right? Cool. So you hit that, and if you can hit that in minute 6 or 7, then you got like 23 minutes of awesomeness, which is great.
Cool.
Cool. Helpful?
Yes, thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Great to meet you. See you in a bit.
I didn't mean to cut off your genius. I'm sorry.
No. I ran out of smart things to say. Hashtag poop in the group. Poop in a group. Credit to my wife.
Do we have any more debriefing?
Yeah.
We have airspace to fill up while they're changing mics.
Yeah, I mean, look at the contrast, right, compared to the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's funny how I don't even
Yeah.
remember what they do. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's what, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll talk loud.
Here. No, take it.
I'm so short.
I think one of the things that I just realized that I'm wondering if you guys can elaborate on is that they don't have to know what we do to help us, which I don't think we've ever had the benefit of for some reason.
So do you remember how yesterday we talked about that the most important thing in mentorship is chemistry and it's not background?
Yeah.
Right? It's so true. It is so true. Background can be really helpful, but that background being helpful will be really helpful with the specifics of your business. But let's be honest, the specifics of your business are only part of running a great company. The rest of it is hiring, it's strategy, it's pricing. It's not the specifics of the product or the industry itself, right? So if the person doesn't have a background in it, you can leverage them and learn from them in other ways. You don't need to convince them of the viability of the product itself. So that's why truly understanding, getting out of the data of the background of the person and turning that data of their background into knowledge and wisdom about how to best engage with them is so critical. So because he doesn't need to know anything about your business, and he can still be really, really helpful to you as founders in terms of the common struggles that most businesses face, right?
Having said that, I would, maybe not all mentors, I would like 30 seconds to have
No,
some clue.
you want a reference.
Right, yeah.
You always want a reference point. You want to understand the basics, but you don't need to go into the specific details. And sometimes the best thing to do is just ask the person, right? There was a company that went this morning that does the virtual reality, augmented reality stuff, right? And I think that, and David didn't have any clue about that space. So the best thing to do is, we're in this space. This is generally what we do. If this is an interesting space to you, we can dive really deep. Is that what you would like? Or would you like us to talk about one of these 3 topics, which is where we're struggling? And then let the mentor figure out or decide where to take it. And in that way, it's most beneficial for both of you.
I'd add one piece on chemistry. There's 3 of you.
Use the mic.
There's 3 of you in the meeting, and there was one person doing the majority of the talking, and there's 3 very capable people. And people can vary on how many people talk, but if you come out of the meeting and David's thinking, "Wow, Brian was great. I didn't hear from these other 2. I don't really know if they're, if I like them or not," or he comes out of the meeting, "This team was amazing because I heard from Kate, I heard from Jim, I heard from Brian." If there's ways that you guys can talk about before, and you brought it up, should we interject or not? Like, if you guys can figure that out ahead of time, of we might all communicate, we might all participate in this, you can come out of the meeting having the mentor fall in love with your whole team.
Cool.
That's we made a very conscious decision coming out of yesterday, and just that we wanted to streamline and have one person speak. One thing that's interesting about our team is all 3 co-founders and John, our CTO, can pitch our business to a room full of 300 investors very capably. And I think, we're all really confident in that, but is that the best thing for the business? So often we make a decision to step back and say, let one person lead this. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to do that.
We also decided to not have more than 2 at the most in any meeting, because it was just rapid fire talking over each other yesterday. So I don't think we have any with 3 of us or more. It's just 2.
Just getting into a rhythm. Right. So a couple things. So first of all, what's right? There is no true answer to this, because it's going to be a little bit different for each company based on your personalities of the founders, right? I think that if you have 3 people in the room, my preference is that all 3 people talk. This is my preference. It's not everybody's preference. It's not his. He wants to talk to one person and have one person to kind of focus on. Otherwise, it's confusing. I like to know who's in the room. The point is that there isn't a universal answer. So it's going to be what works best for your company and what works best for you guys as individuals. So find your rhythm, and your rhythm is right for you guys, right? There isn't a otherwise a right answer here.
And I'll just clarify on that, and I think we have another company. I think that it's great when all 3 talk, but when you force it, when you're like, well, could you please introduce yourself, it just chews up more time.
Yeah, just as added, I tend to like it when people have areas of expertise that they talk about. Yeah. This person talks about product, this person talks about customer base and users, right? And then it feels like you guys are really a team. It feels very natural, and that everybody has clear delineations of responsibility in the business.
Yeah, and one thing we used to do when Brian and I used to pitch together was I would talk about the female piece of the business, which I think feels weird to hear someone else talk about, to be honest. So I think we can maybe reincorporate that in it. I think he does a great job, and it's not bad in any way. It's just strange to be not talking during that time.
I agree. I wanted to hear you talk about female influencers as well.
Cool. Should we do?
Let's do number 3.
Number 3? You guys ready?
Hi guys, come on in.
Hey, dude. Patrick.
Patrick, nice to meet you.
Alex.
Alex.
Hi. Zoo. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks
Grab
for meeting
seats.
with us.
How were the handshakes?
These were all good. They were all good, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so
I'm guessing you're playful.
we are playful. Yes. And Playful is an app where you can play games and win food from restaurants like Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Denny's, Coffee Bean, and more. And one big problem we're having is how to scale to new restaurant markets we're entering. And so we would love to get your advice on that.
Great. Let me ask a couple of quick questions
Sure.
about the product. You play an app, so I get an app. If I win a game, I get a free burrito. Is that?
Yeah, you can get discounted as well as completely
Yeah.
free meals.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese or Dave & Buster's where you can save up. Yeah.
And you have an affiliation with Chipotle because you're driving business their way, that they're not only providing the discount, but you get an affiliate fee or something like that?
Yeah, so right now we're charging them monthly, but
Yeah.
yes, we give them all the data, and we actually built.
You're charging Chipotle in this
Yes,
case.
we're charging
Yeah.
Chipotle.
Yeah.
We actually build custom analytics for them
Yeah.
that look like this, so they can see exactly who's coming in, who's engaging with their brand at what time, and also we have a cool map feature, kind of like we're trying to build it like Pokemon Go, where they can see actually where in the world they're engaging with their brand.
Got it. And so, give me a sense of scale. How many Chipotles are there? How many customers? How much revenue?
Yeah, so
How many are you?
Up till now, we've been intentionally focused in Westwood around UCLA,
Yeah.
but we just got a huge contract with Chipotle to do over 200 locations, and that's very scary because we haven't gone outside of Westwood yet, and we are worried about developing a user base in, like, let's say, East Side, kind of downtown or even.
So the 200 locations
200
will be in
locations,
LA,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
even that is.
And San Diego too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And what's scary about that? What's going to break inside Playful?
The user base, because we've been able to do kind of events at UCLA, kind of like doing things that don't scale, to, I guess, let people know what the app is and how to download it, what it does. We're not sure if we can scale that in other areas.
Because you're acquiring users sort of guerrilla style, one at a time, doing events on campus.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be harder if it's not in your home base, if it's in San Diego.
Yeah, and we haven't explored like digital advertising or
Right.
things like that yet. So we probably will do that in Techstars.
So it's a little bit like my Dell story from the previous
Yeah,
company. You've been doing it the hard way for the first one. Now you need to automate it. Have you given any thought about how that might work yet to do it digitally?
Yeah, so we have two approaches we think might work. One is building social features in the app itself. So for example, we have a feature where you can gift a reward to somebody. So you can play, and then let's say you've never heard of the app. I can say, hey, I got your free meal, but you need to download the app to get it. Right. So that's one way. The second way.
And you have that in place yet? Or,
yes, we do.
And is it working?
Yeah, people are gifting, so that is very successful.
Are they doing a lot or a little, however you measure that?
It's
happened.
It's happened for sure. But right now it's kind of like more more specific use cases. Like let's say like a boyfriend will try to impress his girlfriend by doing something like that. It's not quite prevalent with everybody.
It's not viral.
Yeah, it's not viral yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So have you thought about how to make it viral?
No, so we need to double down on things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, is it a list of a number of features? How do I make it viral? And so is the problem implementing the list of features or coming up with a list of features?
Picking which one to do, because we have a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
But there's lots of opportunity costs with developing any one.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that out, and as well as advertising on, let's say, other platforms like Facebook, things like that.
Yeah. And do you feel like you have some rigorous methodology around, if I try this one, I've spoken to a bunch of people and I think this will work, I don't think that one will work, or this one I can measure, that one I can't measure, this one will take me 2 weeks to develop, this one will take me only 1 week. Have you done anything like that?
No, that's what we need to do. Yeah. So we need to have more rigor with our experiments, I would say.
So what can I do to help? Sounds like you know what you need to do.
Well, I think.
So that was going to be my comment, is he's asking a lot of questions and he's engaged, but he's trying to figure out where he can help you.
Yeah.
You haven't given him yet a clear thing. Like you said, help scale, but then it was so broad that he didn't really understand where to dig in. So he's trying to figure out where to sort of step in and be helpful, and he hasn't yet. He's like poking at little different places to try to figure out where he can be helpful. He hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So help him. right? Like, okay, you have a list of features. Put the list of features in front of him and say, look at these. Give him something to bite his teeth into, because he's right now, like, he's like, well, I don't know what to do.
The analogy I always use there is I'm using my tuning fork, right? Or,
Yeah.
or metal
The
detector,
water witch or
right? I'm
whatever
trying
it
to
is,
figure out, where is the problem that I can
He can dig his teeth into. Did you have a comment? Here, hold on. Wait, right here. Wait.
I know it's hard. I was just going to say that when we were talking, and I can't remember if this was in the first session or during Blue Fever. It's been a long day. Perfect opportunity to flip something back around. I've often found when I was talking to advisors or something, or someone was talking to me about being an advisor, if I got to the like, how can I help you place, that's because either they or me, depending on the scenario, was answering things like I knew the answer already, because it always feels like you're on grill. It always feels like, especially when you're the CEO, you're basically being grilled nonstop during fundraise mode, and then when you get out of that, it takes like 6 months sometimes to get out of grill mode. Then you're usually back in fundraise mode, so you're like never out of it. So it's really easy to always be there. So the bottom line is, you could have said, we could switch it around to say, I've thought about different options there, but I would love to know what you think. Instead of like, oh, what about the social element, or oh, what about the user growth thing? You could just flip it, because of course you've thought through it. You wouldn't be a good CEO if you didn't have something, but that's the time to switch it around.
I don't know that would have helped in this case.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Right, because I'm not hearing the problem. I'm hearing we have a list of features. We don't have any trouble developing a list of features. Right, I'm hearing we need to do an analysis of which features to prioritize. That's on us. We know we need to do that. We haven't done that yet. Right, I'm hearing that we know we're scared of expanding to San Diego and beyond, and we have to do a bunch of work, and we know exactly what that work is that we need to do, but it's scary. Where do you need help? Right, that's what's going through my mind, as Nicole's pointing out.
I feel like that is the question. Being from on the outside, I think that maybe you don't realize this, but I think the thing is I'm having trouble like mentally preparing myself for this, or ourselves as a team. I just felt like I needed to say that.
Cool.
If that's part of it, maybe that might be something good to articulate. Maybe as we feel like we need to do, we feel like we know what we need to do, but we're still struggling with the anxiety of it. And do you have any suggestions on how to just deal with the anxiety of growth or whatever that might be? That's a very fair question. He could probably answer that question.
Yeah, I'm looking for problems, not anxiety.
Right.
Yeah. I think the problem we're trying to solve is what direction should we go in, and I guess how do you make decisions when you have, I guess, different options in front of you with scaling or marketing your business?
Yeah, I think it runs a gamut from trust your gut to do an analysis. Right? In this particular case, it sounds like there's lots of features. You have an opportunity cost when you're developing them. That's what you're describing.
Yeah.
That there's an analysis that can be done. Doesn't mean it has to be perfect and you should spend weeks on it. It means that you should make a list and do a sniff test and score them 1 to 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then whichever one scores at the top, do that.
Okay.
And don't overthink I need to make the perfect decision and suffer from analysis paralysis.
That makes sense. How do you also approach goal setting too?
Yeah.
Like, if you have these different kind of roadmaps you can take, how do you create a unified goal to test the roadmap against that?
So my honest instinct in this case is you're overthinking it.
Okay.
Right? You got a bunch of stuff to do. You have to do A, B, C. You have to do them all. If you wind up doing B first and then A and then C, or C first and then B and then A, who gives a damn? You have to do them all anyway. So just do a rough analysis on the thing that you think is the most bang for the buck, and try that one first.
Okay.
Spend an hour on it. Spend half a day on it. Don't spend any more time.
Okay.
On it than that.
More about executing. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you guys have any questions?
So I'm gonna.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna pause you there because it felt like a really natural place for the meeting to end. Right? He doesn't really know where to go from there, and that's okay. Right? It's actually okay. Like, he'll probably walk out of that meeting going, "Cool. I think I helped them a little bit. I probably won't engage with them over the long term, but that's okay, right? He felt like he gave you something, he felt like he contributed in some way, but there wasn't this like, that's something I can really sink my teeth into to help on an ongoing basis. So just to talk about that, like that's an awesome mentor meeting. That's a successful mentor meeting. It's one that you probably don't need to spend a ton of time following up with, but you got something out of and the mentor got something out of. Cool. So I just, like I point that out because I don't want companies to feel like every single mentor meeting you need to walk out and be like, oh my God, that was like we're totally gonna be lead mentors and you're gonna do that with 80 people, you're not.
Yeah.
But that was really a successful meeting.
Cool.
So
and I would describe it too, you know, if I don't know if I'm a prototypical mentor, but probably for most mentors, it's a bell curve, right? There's, you know, out of 10 companies, there's a couple that you're like, wow, that's something I relate to those founders, I relate to that space, I'm gonna really engage there, a couple of those, a couple of, I don't even know what that was. I can't even remember their names. And then there's 6 in the middle of exactly how you described it. You know, I helped a little. I understand the business. Maybe if there's a specific question about something that we talked about, they'll call me. If not, that's totally fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
The one thing that you guys will I noticed this with all the companies so far, including the session this morning, and that will get better over time, is the one thing that you guys will get better at is asking better questions. Yeah. So sometimes the quality of the answers is coming back as a reflection of the quality of the question. If you have the more specific you get around the question, the more specific the answer will be. So like I'm seeing a lot of vagueness, like we need help scaling, and he's like, it takes him 10 minutes to figure out scaling what, in what way, and what's the problem, right? So stuff like that, anyway, just pay attention to. Sometimes quality of question will improve the meeting, and as you can get more specific about your questions, it's awesome. All right, we only have 3, right?
That's what we got.
All right, so thoughts, what do you guys generally think? Did we learn anything? Yeah, oh.
Do we need my stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I took away from this is coming really, really prepared and understanding your own business. And I know that sounds super, again, self-explanatory, and you should have thought of that. And we probably all think we know our businesses, and we do. But I noticed, like, out of the 3 companies, everybody's like, I have this problem, but nobody, like you said, was specific. And that was really helpful in looking from the outside in and understanding that. Like, I
wouldn't say it's because you don't know your business. I would say it's because you haven't yet figured out how to articulate it in a way that would make sense to the outside world, right?
Yeah, I know your business well enough to know, like, you have this problem, but what are the different, I guess, like, chunks of the problem, and how do you share that with somebody else in a way that's really palatable pretty quickly?
That's right.
So one way to think about it, the business is this big, right? You have a problem that's a slice of it. You have, you know, within that problem, a very narrow topic. If you have a mentor meeting where you talk deeply about that very narrow thing, even though it's only 1% of the business, but it's a big significant chunk of the problem that you're having, you'll get real value out of it, and so will the mentor. And that will be worth, you know, well worth the meeting time.
Yeah, and I love the chemistry versus like deep knowledge about your field. I think that was it was really great to see that happen in front of you.
I think one other thing this session really illustrated for me is that it could be really helpful going into mentor office hours to have a list of questions that you're grappling with, some of which have nothing to do with the space that you're in. So you could think about, what are you struggling with from a team and organization perspective? You know, what are you struggling with from a fundraising strategy perspective? And then what are you struggling with from a, you know, growth and business perspective? And that way you'll have something that's meaningful to you to offer up to someone, even if they're not an expert in your vertical.
It could even be, I'm struggling with, you know, I'm struggling with leadership. I'm struggling with personal organization. I'm struggling with how to prioritize. It doesn't even, it can be personal things too, because remember, like, growing your business is also about growing yourself, and the more that you can parallel those 2 paths together, like, the better things happen. So, so for those on the remote distributed sessions, I really encourage you guys to do this on your own. The more you can practice yourself with somebody else, and the more you can watch others practice, the better. That will radically accelerate your learning in this. So when you actually hit your mentor meetings, that you can be super productive in them. And same thing for those here too. So we have one more session tomorrow. One more session today. So if you guys that are here want to participate, just watch, observe that session, you're more than welcome to do that. That will get you a little bit more exposure to it. Other than that, thanks guys on the virtually, and thanks to everyone here. And
see you,
it was great having you.
I'll see you next.
Woohoo! All right, we're done.